Yo, what's up guys? Today's video is part 2 of my MvC2 Beginner's Guide, and just in time for the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. Like my first Beginner's Guide, my aim is to get you understanding some basic to intermediate mechanics in the game that'll really help you learn the game faster. So let's get started with some more Marvel fundamentals. Kicking things off with the Magic series, the Magic series is a chain of normal attacks that all characters can do. The basic order of the sequence is weaker normals into higher strength normals, and it's a combination of punches and kicks. When the Magic series is done in the air, the final hit in the combo is usually a heavy attack that causes a hard knockdown. One thing to keep in mind is that this basic combo framework isn't universal across all characters. Some characters can get a full 7-hit combo, while others might only be able to get maybe 5. You'll want to experiment with your characters in training mode to find out what sequences are available to them. Just remember that when you're experimenting with your combos, you try and go from lights to mediums to heavies. And if you're grounded, you want to experiment with the standing and crouching versions of your attacks. Alright, now let's move on to the health bar. You'll notice that when you lose health, some red health gets left behind. This red health is recoverable, but only when the character isn't on point. The indication that your red health is actively recovering is a tiny little shimmer at the end of your regular health. So if you have a character on point that's in danger of dying and they got some red health available, you want to swap them out so that they can recover that red health. And while this character is out, you want to be extremely careful about calling them as an assist, or even just refrain from calling them at all so that they can recover their health. This is especially important if you're running a team of 3 good characters as opposed to a team that has 2 good characters and an assist. Typically, people are more okay with letting a character rack up a bunch of red health that was only meant to be an assist character rather than a good character that was meant to eventually play a major role as a point character. Keep in mind that any red health that you have is lost if that character becomes a point character. So make sure that you don't raw tag them in or DHC them in without having a really good reason to do so. A good example would be doing a Lightning Storm Super and then doing a DHC into a Hyper Sentinel Force. In most cases, this DHC is enough to kill a character, so it's usually worth doing even if your Sentinel loses a chunk of red health for it. There are a few exceptions to recovering red health as a point character. Amingo, Sansan, and Jill are the only characters in the game that have an assist that can recover your red health while you're on point. The assists themselves aren't really that popular, but still good to know. There's also characters like Thanos, Shuma Gorath, and Omega Red that drain health and apply it to their own. And if you eliminate a Surf Bot and pick up the gems that he drops, that also recovers a little bit of red health. Alright, next let's talk about throws. Throws are performed by pressing either forward or backwards, and then either pressing heavy punch or heavy kick while you're right next to an opponent. Some characters have a throw for both heavy buttons like Magneto and Storm. And some only have it for one like Cable and Sentinel. Make sure that you know how to throw with your characters. In most cases, the direction that you throw your opponent in is determined by the direction you're inputting when you initiate the throw. I say in most cases because there are characters that break this rule. For example, Cyclops' grounded heavy kick throw or his air heavy punch throw. Both of those throw forward no matter what direction you're holding. There's also Omega Red's air heavy punch throw, which always throws backwards. I'm sure there's more one-offs like this, so make sure to experiment with your characters and find out what they can do. Alright, now let's talk about tech hits. You can break a throw, known in this game as a tech hit, by pressing any direction and either of the heavy buttons. The window to react is pretty small, so you have to be on high alert. I recommend holding a direction and then either mashing both heavies repeatedly or doing some quick swipes across your buttons to make sure that you're inputting tech hit on all possible frames. There's also a secondary window for you to land a tech hit. It can only be done on throws that end in a hard knockdown. The full animation of the opponent's throw still happens, and you have to input tech hit the moment your character hits the ground. If done successfully, you avoid being knocked down and instead fly back in a normal jump state. And again, throws that don't end in a hard knockdown don't have this secondary window. Alright, now let's talk about snapbacks. I did cover snaps in my first beginner's guide video. I just want to cover a few more things about snaps that I didn't cover in that video. If you notice that an opponent's assist character has a lot of red health, it's a good idea to try and snap them in so that they lose that red health. This is especially good if it's a problematic assist character like Captain Commando or Psylocke. Another good snap strategy is snapping in a character that the opponent is trying to keep alive. Oftentimes when a character is almost dead, people will raw tag to try and keep that character alive. With a little bit of patience and a good read on your opponent, you can anticipate a raw tag and snap that character to bring the weaker character back in to finish them off. And also remember that that character is going to lose any red health that they could have recovered since you forcefully brought them back in. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can't call a character that was just snapped out as an assist. You'll notice that when the character is freshly snapped out, they'll have a red X over their health, and you have to wait until ready pops up over their health to call them as an assist. When you get a double snap and there's only 2 characters on the team and you kill that second to last character, this weird thing happens to where the final character doesn't come out as usual in a normal jump state, but instead suddenly appears grounded and in the corner. Knowing this, some people choose to let the assist that they're punishing leave so that they can come back out in a normal jump state so that they can go for a guard break. Since the character has such little health, they're barely a threat and are usually pretty easy to finish off. And once that character is eliminated, then the final character will still come out in a normal jump state as usual for another guard break opportunity, as opposed to them just suddenly appearing on the stage. Alright, now let's talk about assists for a little bit. A good way to use assists in this game is to counter call. You can play a little patient with your assists and not call them first all the time, and instead wait for your opponent to call theirs first. This can be a good way to deal a lot of damage to an opposing assist and even kill them if the opponent is not paying attention. And you could even apply what we talked about earlier and snap in a character that has racked up a lot of red health to make them lose that health. One of the best things about this game, in my opinion, is how creative you can get using assists to extend combos. With 56 characters to choose from, the possibilities are pretty much endless. If you're wanting to use teams that are not already well established with combos already figured out, I would recommend hitting training mode so you can figure out how to extend your combos with your assists. Here are some tips on types of assists that'll hopefully help with your combo experimentation. These aren't official categories or anything, these are just categories I made up myself to help explain how assists can help you extend combos. And some assists can fall into more than one category. First up is soft knockdowns. These assists cause a soft knockdown that can be OTG'd to extend a combo. Keep in mind that these are rollable. Next is capture. These assists put the opponent in a capture state, leaving them vulnerable for a follow-up attack. Keep in mind that some capture attacks can be mashed out of, so act fast. Next is hit stun. These assists straight up cause a long enough hit stun, giving you plenty of time to extend a combo. Next is pop-ups. These assists lift an opponent in the air and allow enough time for something like a dash and launcher for an air combo. Or if your character has an infinite, you can go into that a lot of times too. These categories probably don't cover all assists in the game, but hopefully this is enough information to give you a good understanding of what's possible. Alright, next let's talk about dash-ins for confirms. A mechanic to get used to in this game is getting accustomed to always dashing in after an attack that stuns your opponent to follow up with a combo. Without a dash-in, you'll find that oftentimes you're not close enough to your opponent to fully connect a full combo. I recommend doing a stick dash when doing this because messing up a button dash could result in a whiffed attack and that can get you punished. But of course, do whatever feels most comfortable. Another thing to be mindful of in this game is proximity guard. If an attack is anywhere on screen, whether it's a projectile or not, and you press back, your block will trigger. This can be attacks from both point and assist characters. This can really mess up your movement because it can make you block during times where you don't necessarily want to be blocking. For example, maybe you're wanting to walk back or dash back, but you can't because something on screen is making you block instead. So if you ever feel like your movement isn't as fluid as you expect it to be, it could be because of proximity guard. Next up is guard canceling. Yet another thing you want to get accustomed to doing all the time is this. Guard canceling is when you push block and let your stick return to neutral so that you stop blocking and regain control of your character as soon as possible. Since push blocking shortens your block stun frames, letting your stick return to neutral after a push block allows you to regain control of your character even earlier than if you didn't push block. Guard canceling is useful for a lot of things, but some of the more important ways to use it are to punish opponents, escaping block stun traps, and even escaping some block stun setups. One important thing that I want to mention is that there are times when you don't want to let your stick return to neutral so that you don't accidentally unblock when you don't want to. For example, if Cable has you blocking an Air Hyper Viper beam, you probably don't want to stop blocking until the very last bit of his beam because he can control his beam and catch you unblocking. Another example is Silver Samurai's Lightning Super. It's a good idea to hold back during the entire super so that you don't accidentally get hit. There's a lot of other examples where you can accidentally stop blocking, so just be aware of these situations and hold back during these times. Alright, let's talk about resets now. Resets in this game can be accomplished in a variety of ways and can be used for multiple reasons. If you're unfamiliar with what a reset is, it's when you do something in the middle of your combo to reset the damage scaling or to reset the spin out counter. They can also be done just to style on your opponent and show off your mix-up game. A couple ways you can pull off a reset is 1. Going for a throw setup. This is usually done in the corner because there's a lot of throws that can be OTG'd only in the corner. But there's also throws that can be OTG'd out of the corner as well. Throws can be a risky way to reset because your opponents can tech hit your throw or even tech roll when they hit the ground. And number 2, as mentioned earlier, is you can go for a mix-up in the middle of your combo. This can also be pretty risky, but also really rewarding if your opponents don't expect it. And you can also incorporate assists into your mix-ups to make things extra tricky and hard to block. Alright gamers, I hope you enjoyed part 2 of my beginner's guide. If there's any topics that I didn't cover that you'd like to hear about, leave me a comment and I might try to make a video on it. And if you want to learn more Marvel, I have a playlist of all my educational content right here. Don't forget to leave a like and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!